Twin Eagle is the other Seta and Vizco arcade port published on April 12th, and this one was published by Vizco themselves. The game took a circuitous route to the Famicom. The original arcade game was published by Taito, and then a NES port was developed and published in 1989. And finally, 2 years after that, it was brought back to Japan. The title screen of the game gives it a subtitle, Revenge Joe's Brother. And that's telling you the plot, which I am now reading straight from the manual. One day, John was killed by a vicious terrorist organization. John's older brothers, Joe and Jack, are determined to destroy all terrorist groups, and set out for a city occupied by terrorists to engage them in final battle. Of course, the ending tells you that they were fighting aliens, and that eternal peace was given to every corner of Earth by one brave fighter. So I guess one of those two brothers didn't contribute very much. There are 5 stages in Twin Eagle. The most notable thing about Twin Eagle is the twin part. This is one of those shoot-em-ups where 2 players can play simultaneously. And if somebody's already playing, the second player can just join in. At the end of every stage, you enter a high-speed zone where the background zooms past. And in the arcade, this is where you would fight a boss. But there are no bosses in Twin Eagle on the Famicom. Instead, you get a wave of the same planes that you had already been shooting down. On the final stage, it's basically the same thing, except the background is standing still because you're blowing up a building. In between stages, the game tells you how many of every craft it thinks you've shot down. And I know it's not accurate because it tells me I've shot down 0 of things that I know I destroyed. As you fight through the game, some enemies will drop power-ups. In the arcade, this was consistently from stealth fighters, but here it could be any enemy pretty much at random. To get the power-up to appear, you do have to shoot them down with your main weapon. You fire that by pressing B, and there is no auto-fire here. And if you use an auto-fire controller, your rate of fire is extremely slow anyways. The most common thing that will drop are bombs, and you fire those by pressing A, and it will destroy all bullets and enemies on the screen. You start out with 0 bombs, and you lose them all when you die, so collect them and use them. The other power-ups are a bit of a pain. They cycle through what they do every time you shoot them, and they block all shots. So it winds up being pretty hard to manage your power-ups. You want to collect them so that they're out of your way, but since you're in the middle of a firefight, they're rotating to things that you can't really control. You could pick your shots carefully around them, but that's putting you at a pretty significant risk. The big S with no box around it is speed up. I felt like there were only really 3 levels of speed here. Too slow to hit anything moving horizontally, normal mode, and too fast to reasonably control. The P increases your firepower, and there's 3 steps to that. The firepower for all weapons increases at the same time. So if you've increased to firepower level 3, and then change your weapon, that weapon is at level 3. The thing about that system is that at level 1, all of the weapons are exactly the same. The gray S in the square is your standard weapon, the default that you begin with and have after you die. It's just a normal machine gun, and powering it up adds more bullets. The green W is a wide shot. As it powers up, you get a spread of bullets. The missile icon is for missiles. While these fire forward like your standard gun, they penetrate targets that they hit, which makes them the best choice, especially on later stages when enemies are often placed in cover. The missiles can't shoot through the power-ups, though. The red arrows pointing forward and backward give you a rear-firing gun. It's not bad considering the quantity of enemies that Twin Eagle sends at you from the back, but I'd definitely go for missiles or wide shot in preference to it. One of the more annoying things as you're shooting your way through this shoot-em-up is that virtually all enemies require multiple hits to destroy. Even the basic planes that swoop out to attack you take multiple hits. Something to keep an eye out for are buildings that you can explode. They'll have hostages inside that you can rescue for additional points. Not that points get you anything in Twin Eagle. You don't even earn extra lives in this one. You can continue the game from where you left off if you get a game over, but you can only do that twice, and then it's back to the title screen. There's no cheat codes for extra lives, credits, or a level skip either. In Japan, this port has a really bad reputation. Not that the original arcade game had a good reputation, but it was more fondly remembered than this. And I've gotta say, I don't think Twin Eagle is as bad as the hate it receives. I mean, it's not a good game at all. It's just that it's a very generic shoot-'em-up that doesn't bring anything to the table, executed with at least some technical competence. At the very least, enemy bullets are clear and obvious on the screen. Sure, you'll have trouble dodging them when they get kind of heavy, since your base movement speed is essentially turtle, but you can see them coming. And that's the end of my list of positive features. I feel like the attitude behind Twin Eagle was, it's good enough. You can really feel the lack of passion behind this one.